This is Art Television.
Hello there, a very good evening and a warm welcome to the Business Roundup on another weekend. I am Pamudha Katugampala. We are television bring you as usual another collection of latest happenings and developments in the business arena, easing your decision-making moments. And now let's have a look at the top stories for today. Government goes for a huge relief package to ease the cost of living. The opposition claims the package would further distress the current economic issue. India announces another credit facility for Sri Lanka. The first week of the new year began with positive news, and that was the Cabinet of Ministers has approved a 229 billion rupee relief package to combat the rising cost of living, with the hope it will stimulate the economy. Finance Minister Biz RoundUp told a media briefing at the Treasury that state and plantation sector workers are covered, including those retired individuals, some of the recipients and disabled soldiers.
සමස්ත ලෝක වාසීන්ටම සෑම රටකටම ඊටාම දුෂ්කර අවස්ථාවක තියෙන වෙලාවක ශ්‍රී ලංකාවට ඒක නොඑක කාර්යකාරයෙන් ඒක තීව්‍ර වෙලා දෙගුණ තුන් ගුණකින් වැඩි වෙලා බලපෑම තිබුණා අපේ ආර්ථිකයට මුදල් අමාත්‍යාංශයට ඒ කෙසේ වෙතත් අපි විශේෂයෙන්ම දැඩි වෙහසක් දරලා අපි යම් ආකාරයක සාන සැපීමට හැකි තත්යකට රටේ ආර්ථිකය යම් කිසි කටයුත්තක් කරන්න අපිට පුළුවන් ලැබිලා තියෙනවා.
Under the relief package put forward by the government, state employees, disabled soldiers and retired individuals are to receive a monthly supplemental fee of 5,000 rupees starting this month. The total relief payment will amount to 127 billion rupees. Some of the recipients are to receive supplemental pay of 1,000 rupees, while the government calls on the private sector to provide employees with similar support.
ආබාධික සෙබළුන් සඳහා ඒ කියන්නේ ඉන්නවා අපි දීමනාවක් ගෙවනවා 42655කට ඔවුන්ට අර රුපියල් 5000 ඒ රජයෙන් ගෙවන ඒ ආබාධ සෙබළුන් සියලු දෙනාටම ඒ 5000 දීමනාව විශ්‍රාමිකයන්ට දෙනවා වගේ රාජ්‍ය සේවකයන්ට දෙන දාගේ සංස්ථා මණ්ඩල අධිකාරීවලා ඒට 5000 දෙනවා වගේ මේ ආබාධ සෙබළුන්ට සියලු දෙනාටම මේ රාජ්‍ය විසින් දෙන රුපියල් 5000 ජනවාරි මාසයේ ඉඳලම ගෙවන බව මේව කරනවා. අපි මේ පිළිබඳ අවශ්‍ය චක්‍රලේඛන ඉදිරි කාලයේදී මේ හෙට දිනම මුදල් ලේකම්තුමා විසින් නිකුත් කරන්න කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලය අනුමත කර බව සතුටින් දන්වනවා.
As a 20 to 30% drop in harvest is expected, the farming community is to be provided with a guaranteed price of 75 rupees per kilogram of paddy, even if a drop of 50% is experienced. To combat rising vegetable prices, people will be provided with financial assistance to secure the inputs required to set up and develop their household yield. This will amount to an estimated 31 billion rupees.
හැකිපමණින් ඉවත් වගා කරලා තමුන්ට අවශ්‍ය වසවිස වලින් තොර ආහාර වේලක් සඳහා තමුන්ගේ පවුලේ අයට දරුවන්ට වැඩිහිටියන්ට ලබා ගැනීමට ඒ වගා කරන්න කියලා මම හිතන්නේ මාස 3ක් 6ක් අතර කාලයක් තුල සියලු තමුන්ට අවශ්‍ය ප්‍රධාන එළවලු වර්ග අලබතල මයොක්ක වැනි දේවල් වගා කිරීමට හැකි වෙයි කියලා
Meanwhile, Energy Minister Uday Gammanpilla announced that the government will sign an agreement with India next week to formally lease 14 tanks of the century-old Trincomalee oil tank farm to Lanka IOC. He told the reporters at the weekly cabinet press briefing this Tuesday that cabinet approval for the agreement was obtained and a date for the signing will be decided soon.
Energy Minister Uday Gammapilla said that a majority of the 99 tanks will be in Sri Lanka's control, with 24 under the direct control of the state-run Ceylon Petroleum Corporation and the remaining 61 to be brought under a Trincor Petroleum Terminal Limited, which will be a subsidiary of the CPC. The CPC will have a 51% controlling stake in the company, with Lanka IOC owning to the remaining 49%. Minister Gammapilla said the chairman of the company as well as 4 out of its 7 board members will all be appointed by the CPC. He also added that the company will be subjected to government scrutiny and can be questioned by parliament committees. India was given the tank for India's use in 2003 under the then United National Party government of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe through a memorandum of understanding for 35 years. The Energy Minister further added that as a result of the agreement, 75 of the 99 tanks will effectively come under government control for 34 years.
ත්‍රිකුණාමලේ තෙල් ටැංකි සංකීර්ණය සංවර්ධනය කිරීම පිළිබඳ බලශක්ති අමාත්‍යවරයා විදියට මම ඉදිරිපත් කරපු අමාත්‍ය මණ්ඩල පත්‍රිකාව ඊයේ අමාත්‍ය මණ්ඩලය විසින් අනුමත කළා. ඒ අනුව ඉදිරි සතියක් ඇතුළත අදාළ ගිවිසුම් අත්සන් කරන්න අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. තෙල් බැරල් ලක්ෂ 80ක් එකවර ගබඩා කළ හැකි ලෝතිවෙන දැවැන්තම තෙල් ටැංකි සංකීර්ණයක් වෙන ත්‍රිකුණාමලේ තෙල් ටැංකි සංකීර්ණය ඉදි කරලා වසර 100කට ආසන්න කාලයක් ගත වුණත් අදටත් එය අපි ප්‍රයෝජනයක් නොගෙන දි รา පත් වෙමින් පවතින ටැංකි සාතිශය බහුතරය ඒ අතරේ අපි රුපියල් බිලියන ගණනේ මුදල් වැය කරමින් කොළොන්නාවේ මුතුරාජවල දැවැන්ත ටැංකි ඉදි කරමින් තිබෙනවා. මෙතරම් දැවැන්ත ටැංකි සංකීර්ණයක් තිබියදී අපේ අවශ්‍යතාව සඳහා අපට ටැංකි හදාගන්න සිදු වුණේ වරින් වර පෞගේ ආණ්ඩු එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂ ආණ්ඩු 3ක් විසින් අත්සන් කළ ගිවිසුම් 3කින් මේ තෙල් ටැංකි සම්බන්ධ බැඳියාවක් ඉන්දියාව සමග හදාගෙන තිබෙන නිසා. ඒ නිසා වත්ත බද්දටදී ඇස්සට දතනීය වන තත්ත්වයක් තමයි බලශක්ති ක්ෂේත්‍රයේ ශ්‍රී ලංකාවට හිමි වෙලා තිබුණේ.
City of more news after the short break.
Businesses in this day and age require the best communication solutions to be connected anywhere and anytime. Our technologically advanced long-distance radio devices operate even in the most challenging and harsh environments, designed for dust, water, and drop resistance. The push-to-talk function is designed for convenience, ensuring clear and uninterrupted communication between multiple devices. Dynacom Engineering, a subsidiary of IWS Holdings, is a licensed service provider of the best push-to-talk long-distance wireless communication systems, approved by the TRC and the Ministry of Defence.
Sponsored by
multiple devices ekawara connect kala haki internet like a boss SLT.
Welcome back after the break. Samaga Jana Balawege spokesperson, parliamentarian Dr. Harish De Silva stresses that the cash-strapped government couldn't afford to provide the promised 229 billion rupee relief package at the moment. Addressing the media in Colombo this Wednesday, parliamentarian Dr. De Silva added that the government so far has also failed to reveal how the $500 million premium is settled within 2 weeks' time.
What I'm saying is, if we don't know, it's an if condition, Nisa. If there are enough people who have bought in the secondary market and expecting a yield to maturity in excess of 200-300%, then there is that incentive, political incentive, to ensure that the friends are and themselves perhaps are looked after. We don't know who has bought them. We have no information. There is no information coming from the central bank as to who's holding these bonds at the moment. So it is a relevant question. I am not saying that is the case because we don't have any information. But I am asking if that is the case. So if that is the case, then there is no question that the bond will be paid on time.
Samaga Jana Balawega MP Kabir Hashim, who also spoke to the media personnel at the same media briefing, blamed the banning of fertilizer imports, the food crisis and warned vegetable prices will continue to skyrocket in the upcoming months. He also explained to the media about the current government's plan on signing an agreement with India over the oil tanks in Chinkamali.
I was the minister in 2019, I think, for a brief period. I opened negotiations with the unions, with the joint trade unions, saying that we will not take any action unless we sit at the table and come to a common agreement. The unions have submitted a letter to me. I have a copy of the letter where the unions specifically say these oil tanks in 2003 were given, they were not legally handed over because there was the clarification. Section 1.2 of the agreement said that there has to be a registered agreement. So there was only a MOU. So it was illegal. Actually, India was not holding it legally. So they went to courts, the union. So we told them, we will wait till the case is over, we'll resolve the issue, and then we'll come to a common agreement on what is the best position for the country. So we didn't execute whatever happened. So there is no legal status. The tanks belong to Sri Lanka. The land belongs to the government of Sri Lanka. And the petrol shed agreement is expiring end of 2022. And the government has to give its position. Our position is the government made a statement very clearly on many political platforms that they will never give this to India. So this government has no right to talk about this.
The former bank and SJB parliamentarian Iran Vikramathne said that the International Monetary Fund can't bail out any country and that is only a fake idea spread by some groups for petty political requirements. He stressed that the government, with or without the assistance from the IMF, must be capable of solving the crisis which the country is facing now.
Maybe for different reasons, it may be ideological, it may be just completely misunderstanding the role of the IMF. It may be creating a bogey to the public in terms of attracting votes, right, and basically lying to the country, right? The IMF cannot bail out any country in the world. I think this is a false idea that the IMF can come and somehow bail out anybody. The IMF has a relationship with virtually every country in the world. The IMF talks to every country in the world. They do their annual reviews with every country in the world, right? And then when we have a huge financial problem or some other country has a huge financial problem, the IMF doesn't give us the cash to go and meet those obligations. They give a small amount of money. But what it does is, right, if you have some understanding with them, the rest of the world and the market sees it as that you are following some sensible policies. Our argument in SJB is this: with or without the IMF, a government must follow sensible economic policy. We have to deal with the IMF. We have to deal with the multilaterals and other international banks and players. When we deal with them, we must deal with them from a position of strength, and we must deal with any agreement from a position in which both sides win. That's where we will argue from.
We will be back with more news after this short break.
Like a boss, SLT Mobitel Fiber.
IWS Aviation.
Welcome back to the program. The headline inflation as measured by the year-on-year change in the Colombo Consumer Price Index increased to a record of 12.1% in December 2021 from 9.9% in November 2021. On an annual average basis, the CCPI increased to 6% in December 2021 from 5.3% in November 2021. According to the central bank, an in-depth analysis of the key drivers of current inflation suggests that a large component driven by supply-side factors and that a detailed explanation will be published. The CCPI's spike comes with the Department of Census and Statistics announcing last month that inflation, as measured in November by the National Consumer Price Index, moved to 11.1%. CBS has said inflation was driven by monthly increases in prices of items in both food and non-food categories. Food inflation increased to 22.1% in December 2021 from 17.5% in November 2021, while non-food inflation increased to 7.5% in December 2021 from 6.4% in November 2021. Monthly change of CCPI was recorded at 2.64% in December 2021 due to price increases observed in items of both food and non-food categories, which were 1.80% and 0.84% respectively. Prominent increases were observed in prices of vegetables, fresh fish and green chilies. Prices of items in the non-food category recorded increases due to price increases observed in the restaurants and hotels, transport, alcoholic beverages and tobacco subcategories during the month. Core inflation, reflecting underlying inflation in the economy, increased to 8.3% in December 2021 from 7% in November 2021. Annual average core inflation increased to 4.4% in December 2021 from 4% in November 2021. Indian government sources said that a $400 million SOF facility and a $500 million credit line for fuel would both reach Sri Lanka this month. One of the packages is set to be delivered by tomorrow, and in total, India will release 3 requests for financial assistance presented by the government. While the source claims that the Indian government will release the request for financial assistance, exact dates could not be provided and downplayed inquiries as to whether release was contingent on other factors. Energy Minister Uday Gamanpilla announced last week that Sri Lanka and India would jointly develop the Trincomalee oil tank farm and that the IOC tank lease was extended by 50 years. Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa is to make his second official visit to India starting on January 10th. Prior to this, BJP's Subramanian Swamy had castigated his government for the failure to extend critical support to Sri Lanka at her neediest hour. Subramanian Swamy, an Indian politician, economist and statistician, is a staunch advocate for a strong, friendly relationship between Sri Lanka and India and no stranger to Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka's low foreign reserves last week received a boost with the receipt of a $1.5 billion facility signed with China last March. The Chinese facility is to be used to pay Chinese import bills. Sri Lanka under the Expo 2020 spotlight aimed to attract trade, investment and tourism with its National Day event held on Monday the 3rd of January at its pavilion in Dubai. The event was attended by a high-level delegation led by Foreign Affairs Minister Professor G.L. Pieris, Tourism Minister Prasanna Ranathunga and the Sri Lankan Ambassador to the UAE, Harish De Silva. The delegation was joined by UAE officials and engaged in retail bilateral discussions. Under the theme Pearl of the Indian Ocean, the National Day of Sri Lanka featured cultural performances staged at Al Wasl Plaza at the Stage of Nations on Monday the 3rd of January. Expo 2020 Commissioner General and Sri Lanka Tourism Chairperson Kimali Fernando delivered the destination pitch, highlighting the growth and revival capacity of Sri Lanka's tourism industry post-pandemic. Fernando, in a statement to local news, said that since opening, the Sri Lankan pavilion has attracted close to 52,000 individuals. She also stated that Sri Lanka got over $1 million worth of earned media coverage. Sri Lanka's Consul General in Dubai, Nalinda Vijayaratne, commented that it has been a great opportunity to attract interest from visitors around the globe and that tourism and export products including gems, plantation industries and investments were promoted at the pavilion. Vijayaratne added that a lot of inquiries into these areas were received and that their conversation into tangible trade and investment is expected during the year. The pavilion showcases Sri Lankan arts and crafts, retail products from export businesses, Ceylon tea, Ceylon gems, Board of Investment, Port City, SLTB, Sri Lanka Tourism Travel B2B Forum, Sri Lankan Airlines and Luxala. Fernandez says that the pavilion has been a success given the limited time and resources that were available. Sri Lanka has recently received considerable exposure as a desirable tourist destination. It was recognized as among the top 25 islands in the world, the second best place to become a digital nomad, the home of 4 of Asia's top 25 resorts, featured on Bloomberg Explore the New 7 Wonders of the World, and ranked as the 4th top wellness tourism destination. Well, that's the end of the program. See you tomorrow with State of Business at the usual time. Take care and good night.